From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up on the show today, a new book about Gwyneth Paltrow is set to be released very soon. But before the book has even come out, it's caused a whole bunch of drama. A whole lot of celebrity stories have come out. So we're going to get into that because there's a lot to say.
But first, I have some strong feelings about Khloe Kardashian's 41st birthday party.
Okay.
Now, the Kardashians love to host a birthday party. From, Stormi's first birthday, Stormyland, to Kris Jenner's Christmas Eve parties. We know that they have massive, massive parties. But lately, something has been really irking me about it. And so I saw this headline, Khloe Kardashian celebrating her 41st birthday at her home, and it's Care Bears themed. That's in itself is totally fine. Until I saw the photos of like these life-size Care Bears and popsicles and a cake and a happy birthday mummy, like balloon thing. And for a birthday party that seems to be just like family, it's really over the top for me.
I'm less upset about the over-the-topness and more upset about the fact that a 41-year-old woman with that amount of money had a Care Bears birthday party.
I think
that's a misuse of funds.
I think the Care Bears thing and the fact that I actually think it's the one thing I do think is kind of sweet is I think the theme was more for her kids than it was for her.
I get that. And
that's the vibe I got from it.
No, I know, but it's still almost a bit too cutesy, trying to be ironic. And I do want to go on the record as saying that I'm a big fan of the Care Bears. Love them. Still have my Care Bear in my apartment somewhere, but I just don't know if that's what you pull out for an adult's birthday.
It's for the kids. And this is one thing parents do is often we like plan our whole lives around what our kids are like. And I think that's kind of the case. And this birthday party in the scheme of other Kardashian birthday parties isn't as bad as some of the, and by bad I mean over the top as some of the other ones, but something really struck me is like she's got these life-size Care Bears, these cakes, like catering, popsicles, a bouncy house, the pool's full of Care Bear inspired things, all of which need to be hired, bought, like planned, all of that stuff. And Kim K's there in her gym gear. She looks like she's just gotten back from training. She's got no makeup on. She's wearing her gym gear. Kourtney is just in like a casual, black biker boots. The kids are in their swimmers. It seems quite casual, but to have like these guys in life-size costumes, it was really like jarring to me. And I think the reason that it bothered me is that it becomes these birthday parties, these events that they have become less about celebration of the actual event and more about this like aesthetically pleasing, Instagram, TikTok worthy thing. It's like a Pinterest party where no one's having a good time is kind of what I get the vibe to be. And the Kardashians are so guilty of doing this, of creating this like aesthetic pressure cooker, right? That everything has to look perfect. And it makes me as a parent feel guilty that when I throw my kid's birthday party that I need to spend $250 on a cake and a cake topper and custom things, and there needs to be a balloon person and a face painter, and I need to have a full thing of like food and everything needs to be themed, and I've got to go spend thousands of dollars DIY. Like it just puts a lot of pressure on parents. They don't have to be in charge of my emotions, and that's not what I'm saying here. It feels really inauthentic to me. It feels so over the top and full on and just adds so much pressure because I'm not the only one that thinks this. I know so many of my friends who it snowballs. 1 minute you're ordering 20 cupcakes. The next second you're like in a shame spiral trying to figure out which Spider-Man impersonator to get that won't pick a fight with the other parents, which, mind you, actually happened to a friend of mine. The Spider-Man they hired got really aggressive and started yelling at the parents, and they had to kick him out. And he like went to throw a punch at a kid's birthday party. So like the pressure's real. And that is my TED Talk for today. I don't know why it irked me so much, but I saw the photos and I was like, not again. Not again. Let's just take a chill pill. Everybody needs to relax. And maybe, just maybe, we can enjoy birthday parties and kids' birthday parties by just having like a Woolies cake and a candle. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I'm glad you got to put that out into the world.
I'm so glad that you listened to me, Laura.
I do. And I feel what you're saying.
This felt like a therapy session.
Well, I mean, that is what this podcast is meant to be. But I should say, not to defend the Kardashians, but I do, it's hard to, because I know that, like, what we see on Instagram and socials have started super, like, influencing events in people's lives, and now weddings have to be this huge scale event, and engagement parties, and even birthdays. Like, you can see the trickle-down effect, like birthdays for adults, I mean. But I also think the other hard thing is that event is not a normal, like, that's millionaires with a smattering of billionaires. It's kind of like maybe saying, like, my wedding in Sydney is not good enough because the Bezos wedding was in Venice and I didn't have 98 private jets to fly in. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I also think sometimes that you need that crazy over-the-top celebrity culture just to live in, like, this little bubble that we just peer into, like they're zoo animals, because it's kind of the vibe.
And I agree. I agree with that. That kind of, like, watching that just to see how the other half live, I think that is fine. But what happens is it does trickle down. Yeah. And particularly, I think it's more so with the kids' birthday parties and the pressure on parents.
It's the kids seeing it and not knowing, yeah.
Yeah, and, like, half the time the kids don't care. Like, the fact that Stormy had this, like, Stormyland, it was her first birthday. Like, she doesn't even know what a birthday is. She can't even walk properly. And they've got this. It just is so unnecessary. And it's this, like, consumerism gone crazy to the point of, like, do we need to have... Did you really need to, for, like, a quiet backyard party for your 41st birthday, did you need to hire 2 people in Care Bear suits to sweat in the hot Californian sun so you could get a couple of Instagram photos?
Yeah, because I think they've got Mindy Weiss on retainer, the biggest party planner in Hollywood, and that woman's expensive. And to be honest, she just needs something. She needs something to do.
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
So that's...
Anyway, that's how I feel about that.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I feel like, yes, the line needs to be drawn in the sand of what normal people can do. And I also think never invite me to a Care Bears birthday party if you're an adult, because I would not go to that.
I'll rub your belly.
Does not sound
Isn't that
fun.
what the Care Bears do? They rub bellies?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want that to sound weird.
Care Bear. No, I'm picking up you putting down. Care Bear power, Care Bear stare, Care Bear countdown. I got it. Okay, so a new celebrity book is about to hit the shelves, but because they've done the normal tact of publicity of releasing a few kind of juicy chapters to the public before it comes out, we already have an idea of where this book is going to go and the areas it's going to touch on. So it's called Gwyneth, the Biography, and it's written by Amy Odell. And if you don't know Amy Odell, she's an incredible pop culture and entertainment writer. She writes a lot of really interesting articles. She has a really great Substack called The Back Row that she really gets into the nitty-gritty of culture. And she also wrote the biography of Anna Wintour, which was an unauthorized book where she spoke to dozens and dozens, well, probably over 100 actually, people who knew Anna Wintour and had worked with her, and really shaped this story of her life that people hadn't seen before.
And it was where we get kind of the famous stories about Anna. You know, the steak, a lot of the stories that Amy Odell found featured in The Devil Wears Prada. Like, yes. that is kind of where the lore of Anna Wintour came from. So this biographer, Amy, is incredibly well regarded. Yes, she is. And then she's written on her Substack that after she published the biography of Anna Wintour, that she started thinking about what other public figures have had a real impact on culture, the people that live in our minds rent-free, whose kind of quotes and stories have become bigger than them. And she said she kept coming back to Gwyneth Paltrow, and that's when she decided that Gwyneth would be the next subject of her book. So she's interviewed over 215 people who have worked with Gwyneth, who went to school with her, who are friends of hers, who are in the industry. And from all of these stories, and also stories that Gwyneth has said publicly herself, she's collated this book. So Gwyneth Paltrow isn't officially affiliated with the book in any way, but there are some sources out there that say that she's very aware of the book, which I'm sure she is. Of course she is.
And also saying she's been in Hollywood for a really long time, she's got a really thick skin, and that she puts a lot of information out there. So she's not too worried about the book.
Yeah, I think I saw someone just completely unbothered was the kind of quote that's been thrown around.
That to me does feel like it's come from Gwyneth's team. I wonder if she'll be bothered when she sees the stories that are out there, but it's hard obviously some books come out and you can see the subjects get quite upset about them. And then we have other books. I mean, this is allegedly, but when that unauthorized book about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle came out, it was kind of widely thought, because they knew the author, that even though they weren't quoted in the book, that he had given them, that the couple had given him like a list of people to speak to. But then when other stories were coming out about them, they had blocked those people from speaking. So with celebrity books, even if they're not directly involved, they can pull strings behind the scenes of like which stories get told.
Yeah, and I think what's really important is that the 220 sources. So we're talking about not just people who have worked with her, but close friends. Like Kevin Aquan is probably one of the bigger sources that is mentioned. If you don't know, Kevin Aquan is one of the biggest makeup artists in the world. Also had a famous makeup line, books. Like he's kind of a very close friend of Gwyneth's for a long time, particularly during those early years in the 90s with her relationship with Brad Pitt, you know, Ben Affleck, the Emma days, her Oscar days, like all of that. Kevin was around for a lot of that. So Kevin Aquan's actually passed away. He passed away back in 2002. He's still got a makeup line, but obviously he's discussed this with her. This has been in the works for a long time. So these sources have been, you know, checked. We know them. A lot of the stuff, you know, in the early years, I think will be really interesting. Do we know much about, like, we know the book's coming out in July in the States. Is it a different launch date for the Australian market? Yes.
Yes. We get everything a bit later here.
So one of the things that I found quite interesting in some of the excerpts that have been released is like the early years and the school stuff. So as we all know, Gwyneth is sort of one of the original Nepo babies. She grew up incredibly wealthy, Upper East Side of Manhattan. She went to a school called the Spence School, which is an all-girls private school on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Funnily enough, Kerry Washington also went to this school.
I do not get that vibe from Kerry Washington.
Neither do
I don't know if
I.
that's just me projecting, but I get private school girl from Gwyneth. Like that feeling seeps from her pores, but Kerry Washington just seems a bit more down to earth.
I know, it does. It feels... The other thing about the Spence School, it's very like Gossip Girl, but it's single sex. Apparently the whole school were really enamored by Gwyneth during this time.
That's fair. She's a beautiful, willowy blonde, and her parents were already very famous.
Yeah, so she kind of already stood out. Apparently, you know, when she was in middle school, which is like a primary school, people singled her out. Like the seniors were singling her out and saying she's amazing. Apparently, one alumni reported, this is from the book, one alumni reported not one person had a doubt that she was going to be famous. One of my favorite ones is that in her yearbook quote, it's like party on, whatever, that quote's fine. But her nightmare, what is her nightmare? What can we think? What do we think it is? She just wrote obesity, which tracks.
I feel that would be what she would say today too.
It is 100%. Like
that's the thing about Gwyneth Paltrow is that I know she does like hold herself back to an extent in public, but out of so many celebrities, I feel like we know exactly who she is. Like the good, the really ugly sides of her. Like it's just all, for better or for worse, it's just all out there.
I think and it's one of the things that I do appreciate about her is that she doesn't hide her upper class. Like she's not trying to be relatable. Like she knows that she is.
But that's
rich.
also coming from like a real safety net for her. Like the people who can come out, and it's not that I want to put her and Dakota Johnson in the same thing, but there's a certain way that people who have grown up in immense privilege in the entertainment industry can speak because they have this huge inbuilt safety net. Like Gwyneth Paltrow knows that she can really say whatever she wants and the stakes aren't that high.
Yeah.
Because was like born on a silver cloud with a silver spoon kind of thing. So it like makes them interesting to watch, but it also takes away some of the stakes of what they're saying.
Yeah, I think that the extreme wealth of these Upper East Side private schools can't be ignored because this isn't like a private school here in Australia, which, you know, we have some very expensive private schools here. But in these Upper East Side New York private schools, this is like billionaires, oligarchs, like aristocrats. This is like the upper crust money of society. So the fact that she went there, obviously her parents were famous. That's why. it's kind of a very artsy school. It was really, it's really heavily focused on the arts. Apparently she didn't do very well academically. She just did, they kind of just like whisked her through because.
Well, that's my favorite line out of these excerpts that have been released is there's this section where Amy Odell writes that a teacher passed her because basically she pleaded and she needed to pass this class. Otherwise she wasn't going to graduate, and the teacher passed her. And she said, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm going to thank you when I win an Oscar. And in brackets, Amy Odell writes, and she didn't.
I know, I love that.
I think that really does say all you need to say about that situation.
Some of the big headlines that we've seen over the last couple of days, the one that really got me was the Ben Affleck one.
Right.
So if you haven't seen it, Gwyneth reveals her relationship with Ben Affleck. And so apparently she was talking to Kevin Aquan. This is where Kevin Aquan comes in. Her and Ben had very good sex to the point where one afternoon Ben Affleck teabagged her.
Yeah, that is the story that's out there.
Yep. And she loved it.
Which is kind of interesting because, again, I'm really projecting on what I know about Gwyneth, but I feel like she absolutely wouldn't care about that story being out there. I think what she would care about is the way it's kind of gone secondhand, person to person, and now it's being used in these really clickbaity, over-the-top articles where people are just being like, I actually think she would quite love how horrified people are, but not love the way it's kind of just been like relegated to a few lines, because some of the, I mean, I don't want to read this out loud. I just want everyone to know that I'm not going to enjoy this and you guys aren't going to enjoy this, but just strap in. The way that people are writing up, like page 6 was the first article that I saw that did this, that went super viral. And they start by trying to be really like, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow allegedly enjoyed this sex act with Ben, but we're not going to name it. And then they go on to say, but those in the know won't be surprised that Affleck was into it. He does love Duncan. Which I feel like obviously that's alluding to Ben Affleck's undying love of the Dunkin' Donuts franchise.
Oh my God, page 6!
For which he has starred in many a commercial, and he's always pictured with his Dunkin'. And I just thought, like, Ben Affleck's love of Dunkin' Donuts is really pure, and I just don't like that it's been brought into this.
I'm sorry, but whoever wrote that.
Oh no, this person was having a field day. It gets better.
I know that it's on the nose. On the bag.
Yeah, it's really, and then they went on to say that this was a side of Gwyneth that her friends knew well, but the public didn't see. And I was like, an odd way to get, I mean, that's a line that Amy Odell writes. I'm sure in the book it's explained more, but it's like, is it just like, is everyone in the friendship group like, yeah, Gwyneth loves teabagging, but no one knows that. I just don't know if that was like the going around in the friendship circle, the way it's been presented.
It's also it's an odd one. I think the reason people are so horrified is because teabagging is almost like this. I don't want to go talk too much about this because it's so intense. The visual that I got when I read this, I was like, oh my God, I've just got this picture in my head and I need to like scrub my eyeballs. I think the reason, I don't think she would love it, but like she probably doesn't care, but it's become so,
I don't know if she'd care for just the way it's been described. I think again I think she would actually quite love, I think she loves the world knowing about her over the top movie star dating every man in Hollywood wanting her past.
Well, she had a vagina candle. She doesn't care about
and
her
she
sexuality.
About sex, she's fine. But then it goes on to say, yes, she told Kevin Aquan in his London hotel room one day after lunch, and I love how she's had this one conversation with Kevin, and Kevin has told everyone he's ever met, as I would too, after lunch, that she loved when Affleck teabagged her. And then page 6 has written, how do you like them apples? And then they've said, reps for Paltrow and Affleck did not immediately return our request for comment. No shit.
Yeah.
So that means, because I guess you have to notify someone when you are writing about them.
Write a reply.
Yeah. So that means that some poor assistant somewhere opened an email from page 6 that said, hello, insert name, I hope you're doing well today. Just letting you know that on the site today, we are writing a story about how Gwyneth Paltrow loved when Ben Affleck teabagged her. Our deadline for publication is 5 p.m. today. Please reply. Yeah. And I just wonder if that person, I can just imagine Gwyneth kind of rolling her eyes and walking away. And I can just imagine Ben Affleck just sinking back into his sad Affleck persona.
With his phoenix tattoo.
Yeah. just emerging from his back.
Yeah, so that was one of them. And then we did see a lot of, one of the excerpts was also about her engagement to Brad Pitt and the way that that relationship kind of dissolved.
See, that part, because I read that full excerpt, because like I know there's so much more of the book to come, but I feel like we've just been hit with page after page after page already. I feel like I've read it. And the part about Ben Affleck and the transition from Ben to Brad Pitt was actually the most interesting part, but not even about the sex stories with either of them, because in the book it talks about her meeting Brad on the set of, I think it was Legends of the Fall, which is one of his first big breakouts, and her not getting the role, but then Brad suggesting that she play his wife in Seven. He was obviously like very in love with her. Yeah, and that's a very romantic movie for them to be on together.
Great movie.
Great movie. And she's fine in it.
She's not really in it. She's like barely in it.
Yeah. I mean, again, she's just there because Brad Pitt thought she was super hot and wanted to date her, and fair enough. That's the definition of if he wanted to, he would.
Yeah.
He would get you in his movie. So they get together, and in this book, there's all these stories from Gwyneth's friends and people who worked with her saying that she and Brad just didn't have any common ground. And it's because she said that they were just raised too differently.
Apparently, she said, Brad and I had very different upbringings. So when we go to restaurants and order caviar, I have to say to Brad, this is beluga and this is etc., which is the most pretentious, like...
And like, no, but that is the most Gwyneth Paltrow thing I've ever heard. I guess for a while, they're opposites attract. So Brad Pitt grew up in like a tiny town in Missouri and basically just got to Hollywood with like $1 in his pocket and was just, I think fair to say, and this is on record for the entire world, the hottest human being at that stage of his life that has ever walked the planet, and started getting cast in movies. And on paper, he and Gwyneth were like so perfect, like aesthetically, but everything that comes out about their relationship is just that it was like very forced. Gwyneth wasn't feeling it, and they were just too different because she was looking for more of a Prince Charming. But it's so interesting how like your relationship can change depending on the guy, because then she fell madly in love with Ben Affleck, who also came from he came from Boston, but like a much poorer family than hers, different upbringing, much rougher upbringing, but she was completely enamored with him and in love with him from this book. But only because it's sounding from like everything Amy Odell has written that he just treated her like absolute shit, and that's what made her become infatuated with him. I
know, but I think it's interesting because even though she's talking about how they come from different worlds and there's this whole poor boy, rich girl vibe going on, Gwyneth has said in interviews, I wasn't ready and he was too good for me.
So Ben Affleck was too good for me.
Look, no, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt. So I think when they broke up, like, even though she's like, oh, we're from different worlds, I wasn't ready, he's 9 years older, like all of this stuff, there's still this kind of thing of this pretentious school. I don't know. It's a weird vibe.
I feel like Brad Pitt comes across as very smart and artsy now, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe he wasn't exactly like that then.
No.
And I feel like once the hot sex subsided between the two of them, which she has been on. I was actually when she came to Sydney, she was like on stage and someone asked her what it was like dating Brad Pitt when he was peak hot Brad Pitt, and she's like, it was fucking amazing. And I respect her for saying that because I bet it was. But I feel like the ick started for her, reading between the lines of this book, is that it was all great when they were first meeting and they were having sex and hooking up, but once they're at a restaurant together, the two of them sitting there looking at each other across the table, having nothing to talk about but what type of caviar, it just fizzled pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there.
And then she says in the book it talks about Ben Affleck, apart from the facts when they were teabagging, outside of that room, he would just like play video games, ignore her. It made her want him even more. And when he did kind of, I guess that thing of like when he throws you like a look, it feels even more special because you had to work for it.
It's the playing hard to get thing, like that treat him mean, keep him keen.
And I don't even think that Ben Affleck knew he was doing that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he wasn't strategically playing games. He was playing his video game, but he just didn't know how to sort of be in that situation.
Also this is like his peak alcoholism, gambling.
Well, they
like,
say that in the
when
book
he's
as
very,
well. Yeah.
Like his ultimate bad boy era.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if he was kind of not really connecting to anything other than a hole and a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too vulgar to say.
You said what you said.
It's interesting that you say that it almost feels like we've got the whole book, because there's been so many like revelations already, and we don't even have it. The one that I found quite interesting was the relationship with Madonna.
Yeah, what's said in the book about her female friendships, to me, is a lot more groundbreaking than what's said in there about the men.
I actually agree with you. I think it paints a picture of, it kind of continues to paint this picture of pretension and being a bit above people, because the reason that we are given that the relationship between Gwyneth Paltrow and Madonna deteriorates is because they're at a dinner and Madonna, at this big group dinner, Madonna invites Chris Martin and Gwyneth to this dinner, and Gwyneth and Chris see Madonna yelling at Lourdes, her daughter, and Chris Martin is like, ew, this is gross, and then Gwyneth goes, yeah, she's toxic. Like, for me, that feels that's an interesting reason to cut a friendship off. I'm sure that we'll be given more in the book about that particular relationship.
Yeah, that's so fair. There was a real moment in time when Madonna and Gwyneth, like, at least publicly, were very inseparable, and they were very bound together by, like, health practices and the way they ate and spirituality.
Kabbalah.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. Man, I couldn't even tell you now 100% what Kabbalah was, but there was a point in time when every single celebrity in Hollywood, at least from the tabloids, was into that religion.
It was the bracelets,
the
right?
red tie. Yeah, I think it was like 7, and I was like, should I wear a red tie? Not even knowing what
it's like Live Strong plastic bracelets, Kabbalah.
Yeah, and not knowing like the whole context behind it, but that's celebrity culture for you. But yes, I also think that from that part of the book too, there's that part where she talks about she doesn't even know how Madonna found out they were on the island, that she and Chris were holidaying there. All of a sudden, Madonna appears with her kids and her entourage, kind of muscles in on dinner, screams at her daughter, and then Chris is like, I can't take this anymore, which I almost like, maybe they thought she was being like not abusive in like a physical sense, but it was just maybe like an awful family moment they didn't want to see.
Obnoxious.
Yeah, potentially.
You know what I mean? I think I get that vibe from Madonna sometimes.
Yeah,
maybe that's a sense, like, maybe because Chris Martin gives me the vibe of
more chill,
like kind of cool, and even, you know, their conscious uncoupling, that reeks of like, we're really cool, and like, we're still okay with each other, like that kind of very chill. But Madonna is Madonna. Yeah, she's incredible, and maybe she's a bit obnoxious and a bit loud and a bit American.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'd say there's probably a lot more in the book too. That's what I'm hoping all of these little like parts that we've seen are just gateways to bigger stories in the book. Because the thing is, like, there's so much lore around Gwyneth Paltrow, and there's so many stories that are like half fiction or been told in whispers, and people don't really know the answer. The other famous woman that's listed in there in the book, and who like a bit has been released about, is Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
So Winona Ryder and Gwyneth Paltrow were the it girls of like the 90s, pretty much. They were very, very close friends, and because it was also the time when Gwyneth Paltrow was dating Ben Affleck and Winona Ryder was dating Matt Damon. So they were like this foursome in Hollywood, 4 hot, talented, rich people who spent all their time together. And then Gwyneth and Winona had a very infamous friendship breakup that they've never really spoken about. But the story always was that Winona Ryder had been offered the part in Shakespeare in Love, and that she had chased it really hard because she thought that was going to be her kind of big break into that next level of critical acclaim, and that she was going to win an Oscar. And then the story goes that the script was on her coffee table. Gwyneth came over to visit her and pretty much got in the car with the script, drove away, called Harvey Weinstein, got the role off Winona, and then won an Oscar for it. And the two of them never spoke again, is the story that's been out there for many, many years. And neither of them, well, I mean, Gwyneth has said over a few times over the years that the story wasn't true, but she's never elaborated. And in the book, Amy Odell has written that according to her sources, Gwyneth was really upset about that story being out because she said she was already chasing the role and that she didn't take it off Winona, but she believes that Winona Ryder planted that story to get ahead of her Oscar win, so she would always look like the mean girl. And we just know that they've never spoken since.
Yeah, so from our favourite Harvey Weinstein, he says it was never sent to Winona as an offer, but Winona wanted to do the part and Gwyneth had recommended her for the part, which is interesting.
And then other studio people have said over the years that the thing, everyone's got a different story about the Shakespeare in Love role.
Do you know what's interesting though? I think Gwyneth and Winona are such different. Like, I would never see them in the same role. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, they are such different actors to me. Winona more so, obviously she kind of got into that Tim Burton spooky, like Edward Scissorhands, like she kind of lent into that part. You know, The Girl Interrupted, kind of a little bit more raw, whereas Gwyneth has always had this very polished, pretty Emma, Shakespeare in Love, you know, beautiful. Like, they didn't seem, to me, from an outsider's perspective, I would never think of them going for the same role.
Yeah, I think maybe not now, but I think at that moment in time, they were both so fresh in their careers. I mean, obviously Winona had been acting a lot longer professionally and had been like as more of like a teen actress in Mermaids with Cher and things like that, and was coming up into that world, and Heathers and all those sorts of things. And Gwyneth had some breakout roles, but Shakespeare in Love really was the one that put her on the map. And I think at the time they were just both beautiful ingenues with the pixie faces and that kind of very like wafy aesthetic that was huge at the time. So I feel like that was a moment in time where they would have been going for all the same roles. But it's really interesting because obviously Gwyneth Paltrow won the Oscar for that, which was the end game of what she wanted. But then the aftermath of that is really famous because she got, first of all, people thought that she shouldn't have won and that she only won because her famous parents and her team and Harvey Weinstein.
And Harvey Weinstein,
who
famously
was the ultimate kind of decision maker behind the scenes for the Oscars. People thought that there had been strings pulled behind the scenes with the Oscar voters, which we know with campaigns and things can happen.
And that movie is not very good. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I like the fact, I think that's probably one of the biggest upsets in terms of Oscars history of Shakespeare in Love winning Best Picture. Like, it's kind of one of those very contentious wins.
Oh, yeah.
Because retroactively, we look back and look at a lot of Best Picture wins and Best Actress wins, and in those categories, a lot of them still do stand up. But this one particularly was like, what?
Yeah, but the thing is, usually it takes sometimes a couple of years for people to be quite angry, but people were angry like the moment she won. They were angry that she won for that role. They were angry that she beat Cate Blanchett, who was up in the same category for Elizabeth.
Yeah, first Elizabeth.
And who everyone thought that she should have won, that her performance was better. She got so raked over the coals for her gown, that Ralph Lauren pink gown.
Oh, I thought that was beautiful.
I think it's also very of its time, but it just wasn't fitted properly to the front. And also in the book, Amy Odell writes about the fact that she was losing weight very rapidly and they kept trying to refit it and they couldn't refit it. And then she also was wearing this diamond necklace, and she said on the red carpet, "If I win, Daddy will buy it for me." And I think she meant to say that in a really endearing way because she's really close to her father, and also they're like filthy rich. So that just tracks. But she got really raked over the coals for that. And then it says in the book she didn't get out of bed for 10 days because she was so overwhelmed by the attention, the backlash, which I've heard her talk about before, that her family and friends kept calling her, and her mum, who's also a famous actress, like a very famous actress, was calling and leaving messages on her voicemail and saying, well, you think you're too good to speak to us now that you won an Oscar? And then it got to the point everyone's like, is she alive still? We have to go do a welfare check on Gwyneth, and she is like in a complete meltdown state.
Yeah, and I think this is also when we get that thick skin that comes in. You know, when you're in that industry, especially getting so much flack for something so early on in your career where, you know, this is the one thing that you've wanted, for people to say that you don't deserve it would be very challenging. And so I can definitely see how now in her 50s, she is like, oh, been through worse. Like, I don't care. It's like, she's got her own vibe. Like, this is where Goop came from. Goop was started in 2008. Like, she was so ahead of her time in terms of like wellness culture and like the alternative medicine, wellness, energy healing, and, you know, vaginal steaming and all of those things that really put Goop on the map. She kind of set the stage for it. She's the one that started that mainstream acceptance of alternative medicine.
Yes, and I feel like it's just, I think it's so interesting what else will come out of this book when it does come out. Like, it's not coming out in Australia until the first week of August. But I also think, like, she's not the kind of celebrity who will, like, put out a statement or he'll do an interview or anything like that. I feel like she'll probably just, like, she'll get asked about it in some random podcast interview with a guru and she'll laugh it off. I think if there's anything in there, though, she is really upset about, she will really nail down on it. what's interesting with Gwyneth is there's so much misinformation about her, but I feel like she only latches onto certain things. Like, she'll let so many huge rumors about herself go because she's like, nah, if you want to talk about me, talk about me. I'm over here living my life. But then a man will say, you hit me on the slopes, and she'll be like, I will take you to court for everything until you admit you are a liar. Like, there's just some stories that she doesn't want to be told. So I'm interested to read the book, and I'm also very interested to see her reaction and to see the one thing that she kind of won't take lying down.
Yeah, we will keep you guys updated on any other sort of glaringly obvious things that we miss in once the book is released, once we've read it, and we'll keep you posted on it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a fascinating read, and no better biographer to do it.